Hi everyone. Really nice to not meet you, but be here to do the Secret Gardens project with you today. So my name's Katie, and I'm an artist, and I work with a material called clay, which is actually something that you dig out of the ground. Some of you might have worked with that before, but today you're going to be working with plasticine, which is a nice brightly coloured modelling material, and also with some coloured paper. So I'm going to be showing you some different techniques for working with that. But the project we're doing today is a secret garden project, and it's inspired by this box, which is made by an artist called Catherine Reiki. And the amazing thing about this box is you can peep inside and there's a whole world inside. So this is a picture of the inside of this box. So you peep through this hole and the light's coming in the top, and then you can see this whole world. And then this is another box that has been made by someone when we did a similar project before. So you can peep in the hole. I'm going to have a look in the hole. And you can see that world. So they've painted the inside of their box with a forest, and then made lots of different things to go in. If you come back to my camera, I'm just going to show you the inside of the box. So the way that it's made is it's a cardboard box, which you're all going to get with the hole cut in the front, and that's already cut. And then it's got a lid, and then it's got all these pieces that have been made inside. So you're going to be making different things from plasticine and paper to fill up your world and create your secret garden. Okay, presentation. So this is a bit of information about the project, and I'm working with the Garden Museum, which is just down the road from Evelina. It's about a 5 or 10 minute walk, and it's an amazing museum that celebrates different gardens. And we're going to have an exhibition about the book, The Secret Garden, by Frances Hodgett Burnett. And we're also going to have an exhibition of all these boxes that are made. So you might make a box today, and it might go into the exhibition alongside some other ones that have been created by different people. If we could have the next slide. So the book is a story about a secret garden. So these are some of the illustrations from different editions of the book. So these might give you some ideas of what you might want to make in your garden. If we just flick through those images, so you can see there's these lovely green spaces. So you might start thinking about what you want to go in your garden, what you would want to find in a secret garden. And then the next picture is, I was thinking about secret gardens in London. So this is the map. So we've got the hospital on there, and we've got the Garden Museum, and you can see some green patches. So that's some gardens around. If we look at the next picture, there's actually so much more green space that you maybe don't know about because it's behind closed doors. So I was thinking about real life secret gardens. So if we look at the next picture, so these next 3 pictures are of a garden just down the road that is a lot of the time hidden, and this is Lambeth Palace Garden. And then next up, I was thinking about gardens that maybe we can see but we don't always look at, so where plants are growing out of cracks in the pavement. So walking around London, and you see lots of these sort of secret gardens where plants have just come and grown on their own and are making these wonderful green spaces. This is a walled garden in Brockwell Park. And then if we just flick through the next few images, this is one of my favourite gardens near where I live in Brighton, which is by the seaside. And I love coming back here and seeing how it's changed. So you can just flick through these quickly, but there's some nice flowers here. So try and remember some of the flowers that you like, and you can try and make them with the plasticine. Okay, so here's some pictures of some more boxes that have been made before. So we'll just have a quick look through these. So peeping through the peepholes and seeing these wonderful worlds inside. And I felt like I was going inside the people who's made these heads to kind of think about the gardens that live in their worlds. Okay, so we're ready to start thinking about making. So you will have an empty box like this one. Just move these out of the way. And your box will have a little hole cut in the front already. And this is going to be the space that you're going to create your world. So I'm going to show you some different techniques for modelling. So you should have a packet that's got some bits of plasticine in, like this, and some different bits of paper, like this, and then some different materials to work with. So I'm just going to start now and show you some different things, and you can join in with the materials when you're ready, or you can have a think about what you might want to make. So to start off with, the first thing I always like to show people how to make is a leaf. And I make lots and lots of leaves in my work. So I make sculptures of plants. I might just work with a different colour so you can see it better. So that yellow is nice and bright. So I've pinched off a little piece of plasticine. If I put that in the palm of my hand, you can see the kind of size. So it's like a very big pea, I guess. And then to make a leaf, and this could also be a petal, like the petal on my sunflower that I made earlier, I roll the clay or the plasticine. Some of you might be working with clay, but I think most people have plasticine, into a ball. And then I'm going to use the side of my hand. So I'm going to lay the side of my hand on like that and put a little bit more pressure and roll it so it starts to look a bit like a teardrop. And if that's a bit tricky, you can just pinch the clay between your fingers like this. So you can pinch and pinch and then squash it a little bit flat. So you're looking, you can see that's kind of like a very fat leaf. And then I've got lots of lines in my hands. Your hands might not be quite so liney. I'm going to put that in the middle because that's going to create the little line down the leaf, and then I'm going to press nice and flat. So I've got a nice bright yellow leaf or petal. So you can kind of pinch the end with your fingers, and everything is going to be sitting inside your box. So here's some examples I started making earlier, but you're going to imagine it's going to be squashed down into your box. So this is kind of the bird's eye view. So you want to think about a base. So I've got this little plant here, and that's going to be squashed down. I just move that out of the way. So my first leaf, I'm going to press it on. I'm going to sort of bend it over and then make another leaf. So I'll just show you that technique again. So you take a piece of plasticine, roll it into a ball in the palm of your hand, and then apply a little bit more pressure on one side, turn it over, apply a little bit more pressure on the other side so that you end up with this kind of shape, and then with your thumb press it down. And if you don't have quite so liney hands as me, you've got some colouring pencils in your pack, and they make a really good little tool. So hopefully you can see that. I'm just drawing the lines that you would get on a leaf onto my leaf. And then I'm going to pinch the edge. And I can squash those two together. So that's some leaves. So you could keep making some leaves. You could use a bit of pipe cleaner. So maybe if we just have a look at me straight on so you can see the pipe cleaner. So I've got this pipe cleaner and it's nice and wobbly, which is quite good. So I've stuck my sunflower on, and it means it sort of wobbles all over. And I've also got this little rose. So that's quite a nice material to use. And you can cut the pipe cleaner with some scissors. So if we go back to the overhead camera, I'll show you the cutting. So you can just cut off little pieces, and that could be the stem for a plant. So I could stick that into my leaves that I just made. I'll lie them down so you can see them lying down. And then I'll show you how I made this little rose. So a rose is quite a nice flower to make, or you could make a sunflower, or you could think about what your favourite flower is. Let me just get some big plasticine. So to make the rose, like this one, I'm going to get a small piece of plasticine and roll it. So it's a little sausage. I'm rolling it out into a little sausage. Like that. And then I'm going to squash it flat with my finger. So you can see it's quite flat now. And then if I put it back on the table and roll it up, so you get this lovely spiral. And then pinch it into a little point. So that's like that. And then you can use the same technique we were using to make the leaf to make some petals. So I've pinched off a small bit of clay, roll it in the palm of my hand, roll it on one side. And with the leaf, I rolled it on the other side, but actually I want it to just be this little raindrop shape. Press that into the palm of my hand, and then I can squash that round my spiral. And if I make another one, I'm rolling it just on one side and then squashing it. And you can keep building up those petals round the edge of your spiral. To make a little rose. And you could keep going and keep going and keep going, depending on how big you want your rose to be. And I've got this sort of fat bit here, so at the end, when you're finished, you can just pinch away the extra clay, and then you can poke a pipe cleaner in. That's a bit long, so it's quite heavy. You can see it's bouncing all over the place. So I'm just going to cut off the stem, and then I can poke it into my leaves. So that's it, lying down, a little rose. And you might start thinking about making a flower bed. So I've got a bit of brown plasticine here, and I've just sort of pinched it and squashed it. And you could poke it with your fingers so that it looks like a little bit of soil. And then you can start adding your plants into that piece of soil, so it creates a little base. So I've got these little leaves I'm going to stick on. It's my giant sunflower. It's very heavy, so that's something to keep in mind, is you want to make the plants quite small if you're going to put them on a bit of pipe cleaner, because otherwise they look a little bit sad because they droop quite a lot. So I'm doing the same thing. You can see I'm rolling clay, the plasticine in the palm of my hand to make my little leaf. And you can keep adding bits in, so to make a little flower garden. bring that over here. And then I'll just show you one more thing with the plasticine for now, and then I can show you some things you can make with the paper. So these are here's some I made earlier, some little rocks. So the nice thing about having all the lovely colours of plasticine is you can marble them. So that's mixing two different colours together. So here I've got a bit of grey and a bit of white. And if you squash those two pieces together and you sort of smush them up with your fingers, and you can roll them in your hand and then fold them over or roll them on the table and then squish them up. So you get this lovely sort of marbling, and then you can model that into pebbles. So you might want a little kind of pile of pebbles in your garden. And the plasticine's really nice and sticky, so you can stick bits together. So I'm taking two bits, rolling it, smushing it. And you can use all these different techniques I'm showing you and really just make whatever you would like to make. So you might make some plants, you might make some animals. Here I've made a little pond. So I'll just show you how I made that pond. Bring that there. So I got some blue plasticine and squashed it between my fingers. You can also put it on a table and press it down with your hand. And the other nice thing about the plasticine is that if you want nice neat edges, you can trim it with a pair of scissors. So if any bits go a bit kind of squidgy or rough, and then you can press it down with your fingers. And I was thinking about the texture of water, so I was just smudging my fingers over the surface to make little waves. Just make sure you can peel it back off again. And then using small little bits of white plasticine, you can smudge that in to make little kind of highlights or little waves. And then the rocks might be a nice thing to build up around the edge, so it's like a pond surrounded by rocks. So you could keep making lots of rocks and add them all around the edge. Put one there. And if you've got your boxes, I'll just bring my box over. Take these bits out. So you can start putting things into the box if I turn this round. So this is the inside of my box. So I might think I want to put my pond there. And later you're going to paint the inside of your boxes. But you could also put some coloured paper inside. So if I take everything out first. So they're the same size as a piece of A4 paper, but just a little bit shorter. So hold on, let me move this so you can see. So the paper is just a little bit bigger than the inside of the box. So I'm putting the paper in and running my finger along. So I end up with a fold. And then I can cut that along the fold so that the bit of paper fits in the bottom of the box. So that's quite a nice quick way of adding colour. Then you don't have to paint the whole inside bottom. I can just place that in. And then I can start thinking where I might want things to go. So I might want my pond at the front. Well, you're going to have a hole in one side so you can keep testing and peering through the hole and check and think, oh, my pond's quite nice there, or I might want it a bit further back. But yeah, you can add things in and check how they look as you go along. And it's also a nice way of keeping everything safe in your box. So as you make things, so I could pop my, it's a bit heavy, so I might put that at the back. And yes, start building your little world. So I'll show you how to do some things with paper now. So I've got a kind of yellowy coloured piece of paper here. It's not that exciting colour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my coloured pencil and I'm just going to scribble. So this is a pale green I'm putting on. There's lots of green in my garden. You might think about the season that your garden is going to be in. Do you want a winter garden, a spring garden, a summer garden, or an autumn garden? So mine's a spring or summer garden, I think, because it's very green. So I've done one colour of green. I'm going to scribble a different shade of green over the top. So I've got this nice kind of grassy texture. And I'm going to cut that strip. And then fold it up. So I've just folded it in 4. So I'll open that up so you can see. So my folded edge is here. And I want to cut not on the folded edge. So this is the folded edge here. So I don't want to cut that edge because I want it to stay together as one long strip. So this is the open. So I'm making little kind of pointy bits, shape of blades of grass. And I'm coming up to my last edge now, my folded edge, so I don't want to cut that, so I'm going to go all the way to the edge. If it turns into lots of little bits, that's fine as well. And then when I open it up, there we go, we've got this lovely strip of grass, and I'm going to turn it over and fold this bottom bit. And what that's going to mean is I've got something to put the glue on. So maybe if we have a look from the front. So I've got a fold here, and I'll put my glue along this edge. And then I can stand my grass up so that I've got this lovely standing up grass, and it kind of all waves like real grass as well. So if I take my box, have a look into the box, and I can decide where I want this long piece of grass. So I can kind of curve it round as well, or maybe I want to chop it up a bit. So that's quite a big bit. I can chop it and have 2 small bits of grass. I'll just move my box out of the way a second. And I'm going to put Pritt stick along that little fold. So I'm just going to draw with a pencil so you can see where that fold is. So where the brown line is, because it's a bit hard to see on the camera otherwise, is where I folded it. So I've got my Pritt stick, and I'm just putting a little bit of glue along there. so that when I fold it over, I can stick that down to the base. And then I'm pressing along that folded bit and then pulling the grass back up. And you might want to think about the direction that people are looking at it in as well. So if you want to paint your bottom of your box later, then don't stick anything down yet. But if you're going to put a bit of coloured paper in, you can start sticking things. But this is just good to know for later how you might stick things down. So you could also, this is actually the bit that was left over, you could roll that up and kind of pinch it at the bottom, and then you've got this spiky kind of plant or a tuft of grass. So if you've got some plasticine, you could use a blob of plasticine as your base. So squash that down and then use your scissors to make a little hole. Actually, if you keep them closed, that's probably a bit better. And poke it in. So you could have this little kind of, put that on the side so you can see it, this little tuft of grass. That could look quite nice at the side of our pond, actually. Like some reeds growing. If you haven't got any plasticine and you're just working with paper, you could put a little bit of glue on that edge and stick it down like that. So you've got both options. The plasticine's quite nice to work as a base, but if you don't have any plasticine, you can just work with the paper. And we could make some paper, so that's it. Standing up on my hand, could go around the edge of my pond. And you could make some leaves out of paper as well. So again, here's some I made earlier. I just pull them out, base. So I was using that same yellow paper and colouring in. But you could use just some coloured paper. So I've got some pink here. Some lovely pink leaves. So you can just cut, let me put that on the camera. Cut some leaf shapes out of the paper. Move that onto the white so you can see it. And you might want to do some drawing on there as well. So you could draw the lines of the leaf on. And that's the other thing, is your garden can be all these fantastic colours. There's all the, like, such lovely colours of plasticine and paper that it doesn't have to be just real life colours. You can really use your imagination. I was thinking about Dr. Seuss books and how they have all those fantastic. So if you make a few leaves, I'm just going to cut out some shapes. Okay. So I'm going quite fast today and showing you lots and lots of different things, but the idea is that you can take the ideas that you find most exciting and most interesting and make whatever you would like to make with them. So I've cut out a few different leaf shapes. You can have a look at them with the overhead camera. And then I'm going to draw the lines on them. Got a nice orange pencil. I'm drawing the main kind of vein down the leaf. And you might want to look back at some of the pictures that I showed you at the beginning for some ideas. And then you can fold your leaf. I do it on the table, so I'm folding it in half and pressing down that middle line. You can open it back up, and then you have a little bit of, it's got a bit of shape, or you can use your nail to sort of, can you see that looks a bit curvy now, and it makes it look a bit more realistic. So you can kind of model the paper with your fingers. So I'm going to fold some more leaves. So, and then there's a few different things you could do with them. So these are the green leaves I had before. So I had them just tucked in a little blob of plasticine. You can have that on the base. So I'm using my scissors closed to tuck a little hole. You could also use a pencil just to make a little hole in the plasticine and then poke the leaves in. And then just pinch the plasticine around them. Get a new bit of plasticine and just squash the leaves in. So we've got a little plant like that. Or I've got my pipe cleaner. So this is a lovely, this one is 2 pipe cleaners spiraled together. So it's a yellow and a pink. And you can, if you want to, unravel them so that you have a yellow or a pink, or you can keep it spirally together, which I think I'm going to do. And you can, so did you see I've sort of smoothed my thumb along the pipe cleaner to make it all curly. So they're really nice and bendy. Or the other thing you could do with your pipe cleaner is you can take your pencil, and one of the children in a workshop I did yesterday showed me this technique. So you can spiral it round your pencil like that. And then when you pull the pencil out, you have this lovely springy spirally pipe cleaner. So I'm going to attach my leaves onto the pipe cleaner by turning them over, putting a nice little blob of Pritt stick just on that bottom edge. And then I'm going to fold them round so that they're attached. And this will be like a vine that can crawl through my box. So that one started to come off. You want to make sure that the 2 bits of glued side are touching each other. If I take my box, and then that could kind of go along the edge. You could even poke a little hole in your box to hold it up, so it's quite hard to see. But you can have fun arranging things in your box and deciding where they're all going to go. You might want to have a path that comes through your box. Another thing you could make with the plasticine is you could make a tree. So I've got a little tree here. And that is made by taking a green or whatever colour you would like piece of plasticine. I sort of squidged it between my fingers. So I'm trying to make it look like a nice bushy tree. And you might want to add some texture. So you can use your colouring pencils to poke the clay. And can you see that's creating like a nice dotty texture? So I'm just dotting all over my bit of clay. I've got this sort of lumpy piece, and then I'm going to take a different bit of green, different colour. Can be the same colour. Do some dots all over that. So you might also want to think about the scale of the things you're making. So at the moment I've got a giant sunflower and a tiny tree, which look a bit funny next to each other. But maybe the sunflower could go at the front of the box, like it's nice and close, and then the tree could go at the back of the box. Or it could just be a giant sunflower. So when you've added some texture, you can squash those bits together, and then we'll need a trunk for the tree. It's got some brown. I'm going to roll that. So I often say when I'm working with clay or plasticine that things always start as either a ball that you roll in your hand or as a sausage. So the trunk is a sausage. And I can just press it on the table to make the base nice and flat, so it's going to stick. And then you could use your coloured pencil again to scratch some lines to make it look like a nice textured tree trunk. And I can squash that down and then squash my... So I'll just lay that down so you can see. So I've done a nice straight tree trunk, but you might want to add some roots. So you could then take some more brown clay and roll it out. So that's quite big, so I'm going to pinch that bit off. And then you can... That's still quite huge. So I'll turn that round so you can see it on this camera. The roots kind of coming out of the tree, and that will also make it nice and sturdy when you prop it up in your box. So I've made lots of different plants, and then another thing you might want to think about making is some animals. So you can think about what animals might be in your box. So you might have a bird or a squirrel. So if I make a squirrel, I'm going to think about the shape of a squirrel. So it's got quite a big body. And then if I break a little bit off, that could be its head. So I could roll the head in the palm of my hand. And then, so if that's little squirrel's head, I can just pinch with my fingers to make some ears. I'll put that on the paper so you can see it. That's a little squirrel head, and I could poke some eyes with my pencil. And little mouth. And then think about the body of the squirrel. And stick the head on, so I'll lie that down. Animals are not my best thing. I'm much better at plants, so you might be better at this than I am. And I've run out of brown plasticine, so I'm going to give it some pink legs. So you can just... I think your animals are definitely going to be better than mine. This is a very funny looking squirrel. So maybe if we look from the front, I can show you him standing up. So there's my little squirrel. He needs a tail. And so what we could do for the tail, because he's got pink legs, he's also going to have a pink tail, is I've got some tissue paper, so a nice thin tissue paper. I'm going to cut a piece off. And then cut lots of lines into it. I'm just cutting down, and then you can roll that up. So he's got a sort of scrunchily fluffy tail, and you can just twist the end so you've got something to poke into the this is the funniest squirrel I've ever seen, but it's an imaginary squirrel, so it's okay. So I've just made a hole where his tail's going to go, and I'm poking the end of the tissue paper in, and then he's got a little fluffy tail. So I've got my little squirrel with his fluffy tail. You could use, if you've got a very fluffy pipe cleaner, you could use a pipe cleaner for the tail as well. And you could also make some flowers like I made the tail. So I cut a strip. We have a look looking down. So I then cut these lines in with my scissors. So it's quite fiddly, it's very delicate, the tissue paper. And then, so I've got this lovely frilly. You could just make grass like this, or you can roll it up. And the last bit, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue along that edge. And then I'm going to get my pipe cleaner, and I'm going to roll it up around. So I've got this lovely frilly flower. I'm going to cut my pipe cleaner. So you could just keep your flower like that with a lovely frilly top. You could make a few of them. You could stick them into a bit of plasticine for a base and make a lovely little kind of bouquet. Or you could use some of the other paper. So I've got a kind of pinky, and you could cut some petals out. So before I cut leaves that were this kind of shape, you could cut different shaped petals. So again, you can use the technique of kind of curling them with your hand and then sticking them around the edge of your frilly. So you want a bit of glue. Stick them onto the tissue paper. And if you want to cheat and you don't want to cut out 5 separate petals, you can take your piece of paper and fold it. Just folded it in half and then fold it again. So that's folded in 4, and then I can cut through 4 bits quite easily with my scissors. And then I've got 4 petals that I can curl with my finger, put a little bit of glue on, and then wrap around the frilly centre. So I'll just show you from above how I was doing that. So I've got my petal, so I was kind of using my nail to curl the paper, so that if you see it from the side, it's got a little bit of curl to it, as opposed to it just being really flat like that. And then put a little bit of glue on that edge. And stick it onto the tissue paper. So this looks a little bit like a poppy. There were some yellow poppies that I showed you in the pictures before, and they have kind of a frilly centre and then 4 petals around the edge. So you could create a whole garden of these lovely kind of papery tissue paper flowers. And then once you have made all these wonderful things, it's just a case of arranging them in your box. So it's a bit difficult to show you because you're looking down into my box, but you can start thinking about where things are going to go. So I might have some trees along the back. Move that so you can see the trees. And I've got my pond. With some reeds growing out of it. Got this big kind of trailing plant. And then I might have lots of flowers. Maybe I put the flowers so they sort of come round the opening at the back. I've got my very funny squirrel with pink boots on. And before you start arranging things, you might paint your box or you might just decorate it with bits of coloured paper. You could stick bits of tissue paper to the sides of your box to decorate it. And then hopefully you'll create this wonderful sort of world. So I think that's everything I've got to show you today. And hopefully you'll have fun making it, and you can make it as a team. So you could make it with a member of staff or someone in your family, and then they might be in the exhibition. And one last thing to say actually is, because you're going to probably be working on these boxes over a few times, and also we might need to do some extra sticking down, is if you can take a photograph of where everything is positioned in the box, so that we can look back and know that that tree goes there and that pond goes there, so that if anything gets moved, we can put it back in the right place. I think that's everything, unless anyone else can think of anything I've missed. No? Okay, well, I hope you all enjoy. I'll just move so you can see me past the camera. Hope you all enjoy making your boxes, and it's been lovely to show you some different techniques. Bye.